What's going on, everybody? This is your favorite music journalist, Poppy Cleave with Stitches Rap, and today I am here with
Kaelin Eliss.
I am a masterpiece, have a masterpiece, still I'm one-to-one, still I'm at the...
Kaelin Eliss. It's great to meet you. You're one of the best composers, one of the best multi-instrumentalists that I know today. I feel like you're one of the best composers of the generation, so I just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
First and foremost, tell me about this hat thing.
Okay. So the hat thing started as a joke, but it was a combination of two ideas. So I found myself at the beginning of this year carrying multiple hats around. Also at the end of last year, I played a couple shows in London and Paris, and I'll never forget, I just had my hats kind of like attached. Okay. And I kept telling myself, like, for each city, I'll wear a different hat depending on the vibe. Right. And so after having so many hats, I was hanging with the homie Sonny one day after church, and he was like, yo, cuz, I ain't gonna cap. You should try the other hat. And so I tried on the other hat, and it looked cool, but I wasn't like sold on it. But I liked the other hat that I had. Okay. And so I put on both of them, and hilariously enough, both of the hats had the same kind of like tone.
I see.
And kind of thinking about it, I realized I do wear multiple hats when I make music. I don't just play one instrument. I don't just do this. I don't just.
I see you. I see.
I was like, you know what? This is a moment that I can just like kind of take something by the reins and do it for me.
Wow. Okay.
So
no, I see the vision. I get it. I like that. That's super dope.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I learned about you is that you grew up in a Christian household. Yeah. With that being said, it was hard for you to listen to certain music, secular music, but you said that you listen to a lot of music through video games. Yeah. If you could tell me, like, what video games had the best soundtracks?
Okay, so if I'm gonna speak specifically for my sound, I'm gonna say Jet Set Radio being the first one. Yeah. They had some crazy joints. There's a instrumental on there called Humming the Bass Line. By far, that one, like, doom, 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 like the whole beat is a crazy bass line. That's probably the reason why they called it Humming the Bass Line. There's that one. NBA 2K8. Okay. NBA 2K8 is dope because it introduced me to J-Lib back in 08. I didn't know J Dilla at the time, and I didn't know Madlib as much. But I started learning about Flying Lotus and like Adult Swim, and those are the things I couldn't watch, but I would always hear like the commercials. And then when it would go to the show, I had to like go completely elsewhere. So crazy enough, Stone's Throw, which is the same label that J Dilla's on, they like made a whole thing for the whole video game. Yeah. So that's J Dilla, Madlib, Stone's Throw, Percy P, J-Rock, all those legendary like beat junkies from like the 90s. They did the soundtrack for NBA 2K. Okay. So that's 2K8, and I think the third one, man, I think about Sonic Heroes.
That's tough.
Yeah, they let you listen to all the music and the options.
Absolutely. Have you played Kingdom Hearts?
A few times.
A few times?
A few times. I haven't.
That's what I hold dear to my heart.
Really?
Yes.
Dang.
I have the whole vinyl like collection for it. So.
Really?
Yes. That's tough. Now, one thing I heard that you say in the interview is that chord progressions and sampling are like a language. And one thing I also noticed that it's also could use as storytelling. Do you feel that you do the same within your music or within your albums as well?
Yeah, so I learned years ago in church that you could play something to invoke something in an environment, and really music is intended to attract people to something. And so in church, I realized people wouldn't have to say a word, but then my dad would start playing, and then like people would just start opening up, people start lifting their hands, they start worshiping. And I never realized music was intended to kind of like open people up to be able to express their gifts, express their talents, express their things. And so I kind of picked that up from my dad. I picked that from church, and I learned that you can utilize sounds to be able to create things. Even if you were to, and this is just some nerd talk, I recently realized if you look at a sound wave, right? Yeah. If you just look at like the wave of sounds, you know what it looks like? Like just it looks like a seed. Oh. Think about it. Yeah. Like when you put seed in the ground, it spreads roots, and then when the roots spread, it starts to grow. What happens when we listen to music?
It starts to I see you.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is, with that being said, do you feel like you will ever get into film scoring?
You know what? Film scoring, I did my first short film score for an artist named Iman Europe. We have an album that's going to be coming out probably, I want to say probably this July, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully it's going to be like a July release. But we ended up putting together a whole short film called Metanoia. Okay. And I scored the whole thing top to bottom.
Wow.
And hearing her narrate on top of the music, it felt like church. So I'm like, man, I'd love to do it again. I'd love to do more than just, making music for, releasing my own stuff, but like also telling other people's stories.
Do you feel like that's more challenging than creating like an album per se?
I guess so. The way I look at music is that music operates off principle. Okay. And so if you're talking about a story, it's almost like imagine being with the homies and y'all just playing some music and y'all start talking. Yeah. And whatever topic you lay on, that music that's playing behind you kind of backs it. Yeah. That's all music is by principle. Yeah. If we really look at like the core of what it is, it's telling a story, talking about how you feel. And even right now we're freestyling. Yeah. So kinda, yeah. Kinda. Yeah. You have questions. Yeah. I have certain answers. I might answer a certain way, but all at the end of it, it's combining to tell a story that's going to help somebody. Right. So
now, an artist who I've been researching as of late is Sun Ra. He's like the pioneer Afrofuturism jazz artist, and one thing he talks about is how, since he's so improvisation, and you do the same thing within your music, it creates this like liberating feeling. Do you feel the same way when you create your own music?
Yeah, I tell everybody anytime I work on music with them, I'm a jammer. Okay. I grew up just playing an instrument for hours, and if I come across a loop that would just stick, then that long loop that would take 30 minutes is probably going to be shortened to a minute. It's just if you find something sticky enough, that's what happens. But that comes from a lot of like throwing paint at the wall and seeing what works. Even when I'm like improvising and soloing, it's to me just kind of like throwing paint at the wall. Before all of those cool licks and ideas and chords and all that stuff came, there weren't a lot of really great choices before I even made the choice that I had. So it made me realize the principle behind making music is like, just create. Worry about making it good later. Yeah.
What's your technique when it comes to free improvisation? Do you even think, or you just kind of just do?
I just kind of do. I try to get out of the headspace of like thinking. Like for instance, if you knew you had to perform and you were thinking about how the show is going to go, how the response is going to be, what you're taking away is the spontaneousness of music. And I was mentioning this to another friend of mine earlier, that music is fluid. And so if music is fluid, you can't control how water falls. It just has to fall, and wherever it lands is where it lands.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. Now, you work with a lot of artists, collaborate with a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Who was an artist that you felt that has pushed you to your limits, who made you grow as a producer?
Ooh. At the moment, I would probably say Iman Europe.
Now, she's dope. Was she on your album?
Yeah.
Her verse was my favorite of the whole album.
Yeah?
Yeah. I tweeted about it and she responded. But,
yeah, Masterpiece. We actually like had a whole conversation about, her speaking from like an honest place, and even the things that we're working on now together. I feel like where we are right now, we have to speak from a more honest place creatively, and so that requires us to kind of like look ourselves in the mirror and be like, what am I not saying? Yeah. And the more that you avoid not saying something, it kind of like hinders you. Yeah. But if you say it, it gives you freedom.
Now I got a few more questions. Yeah. Now you're also a basketball fanatic.
Yeah.
You're a fan of basketball. Now, if there is one NBA player out there that mirrors the way that you create music, who would that be?
Ooh-wee. Okay. Because in high school, I kid you not, I remember when Kobe Bryant was about to go through his like last season. Yeah. But like he had like that Achilles issue. But I think 2014, 2015, I was watching nothing but like prime Kobe clips. And I got so deep into it that I like cut my hair off bald at the end of my high school year. Okay. It was before the afro came. But I remember I cut it all off. And I remember I had to like start over at that point because I wasn't really like, I didn't feel like I really knew myself at the end of high school until I started like digging deeper with what I wanted. Okay. And so I watched Kobe Bryant, like all of his highlights, and then I watched guys like Tracy McGrady, and then I watched guys like, oh my gosh, Joe Johnson. Okay. You know, just watching guys that can effortlessly score without needing a plan to do it. They just would do it, you know? And so I would equate it to those guys. Mostly Kobe, but yeah.
Okay. My last question for you is, you're stuck on an island. What are 3 albums that you would listen to forever? You don't have 3 albums to listen to. What are those 3 albums?
James Blake's self-titled, Flying Lotus, Flying Lotus, Cosmogramma.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go for a crazy one in the dark. John P. Key, Blessed by Association.
That's good choices.
Yeah.
I love those choices, especially the Flying Lotus.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.